to this point that when you have a person of the opposite sex in your life and they're close to you, they have the ability to help you balance your perspective because they're watching you. They can see what you're doing. They understand the source of your actions and activities. They understand the source of your thinking and your reasoning, the reason why you think the way you think, the reason why you move the way you move. This is something that can help you if you're open to it. If you shut it down because it's not your truth, it's the truth of somebody else, then you'll never be able to grow from what's actually in your immediate environment, which is actually what you're called to do. Okay, every one of us is called to grow from what's happening in our immediate environments. But if we're not doing that, if we're not capable of allowing the tutelage of another person to come into our lives to say, hey, listen, I see you. I recognize what you're doing. I recognize where you're coming from. I know where you're headed with this. Let me help you get there because I can see you. Now, the only thing I will say that could stop that from happening, that does often, is when the delivery method is not what we would expect or what we want it to be. So I would say to that, just make sure that you have your emotional intelligence in order so that if somebody says something to you, that even if you don't like it, still make an assessment of whether or not it's true. Still make a truth assessment on it to see if there's anything you can extract from it that can be useful to you. You understand what I'm saying? If you're overweight and somebody says, you a fat bitch, I mean, you may not like that delivery, but if they tell you something that just jars you from their perspective, now you may not think that you the fattest thing ever, but if you see some things that you might want to improve, allow that to happen. Allow it to be the healing part that you need from that balancing of your perspective so that you can see from somebody else's eyes. The second thing that I want to talk about is being able to handle the truth, like what I just alluded to. A lot of us are not able to handle when a person is brutally honest with us from their truth, from their perspective. And we have to start learning how to soften ourselves, humble ourselves, and be receptive to the truth. Doesn't matter if it hurts. And it's something that seems counterintuitive, but it kind of is like when a woman is giving birth. When she is feeling pain, she's often told not to tense up. Don't start, ooh, it hurts, because that intensifies the pain. What happens is what you should do is just like when you're jogging. They say when you're jogging, when you reach a hill, you should lean in towards the hill. You lean in towards the pain. You open up and relax to let the pain come through so that you don't exacerbate it. You don't want to exacerbate the pain of the truth. You want to release and allow it to happen, because the truth is the truth no matter who it belongs to, no matter what it came from. If a person sees something and they speak that to you from their place of truth, it'll behoove you to allow that to come into your life and mean something, especially if that person is close to you. So being able to handle the truth just simply means that you're not going to just say, oh, well, I don't see it that way, so I'm not going to receive it. I'm not going to do anything about it. I'm not going to address it. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to discuss it or make any changes. I'm just going to say, I don't see it that way. That's when you played yourself. You have completely disallowed somebody to take effect in your life, even if you don't like how they're trying to give it or deliver this message to you. So in our community, I think one of the biggest things that we have seen between each other is when a man will say that a woman doesn't want to be accountable. Well, I gotta take what my friend Dash Hudson said, and I want to talk to the women about this too, because I learn from men all the time. I've had throughout my life strangers, male strangers, teach me things. Especially older gentlemen teach me things. My friends in my life teach me things. My male friends, if I'm just dating somebody, I allow them to teach me. My husband, he's taught me things. Even my son, the men, in my life have been very influential to me. My brother has taught me one or two things that I do allow myself to use in my life. And so I want to just appeal to the female psyche for a second and remind you, ladies, that our brothers are genius just like we are. Okay? Our entire race of melanated people, we're extremely connected to the source, which is all truth, information. It's just knowledge. And that's the reason why we have such genius capabilities and capacities, because we have an intuitive, natural, genetic connection to all truth and knowledge. So when a man is speaking his truth to you, sister, you got to take it. You have to know how to handle that truth, because it's going to possibly poison you to the point where you die and become reborn again. And I think that's where we have to start perceiving the value of another person's perspective and being able to learn from it. Because in a lot of different times, it will kill the versions of you that you don't like. It will allow you to choose when you want to change. It'll allow you to choose when you want to become somebody different and why you want to become someone different. Especially because if you're listening to somebody that's close to you or somebody that can just see you. Have you ever had an encounter with somebody that they just speak into your life and you're like, how did you know that about me? Like, how did you see that? And they just met you. It's because energetically people can feel where you are. They can feel the information that they need to give you in order to enlighten you about what they see in you. It's just like if you were to see a teenager that was spoiled. You don't have to be around that spoiled teenager for too long before you realize what you need to say to them. You know what? Somebody needs to make you work for something because you're spoiled and you don't know the value of the dollar that you're trying to spend, or you don't know what it means to have a hard day's of work and appreciate the fruits of your labor because you had to work for something. And it doesn't take all day for you to figure that out. And so I want you to understand that you are no different, men and women. When you have someone in your life and they're talking to you about something that they see in you, don't be like, oh, you don't know nothing about me. No, you need to open up and discuss. You need to open up that box and figure out what are they talking about. Now, I would say if you figure out that someone is saying something that is baseless, something that you have no point of reference, I'm not saying to just completely dismiss it, but if you can't receive it at the time, then, or I should say if you can't relate to it at the time, then just put it in your memory banks. Don't necessarily just let it go and be like, oh, that's not right or whatever. You don't agree with it, but just remember it. Okay. Because you'll never know when that thing that they said to you might come to light, and you'll have to come to a place of reckoning where you're like, oh, that person said to me that I'm spoiled. That person said to me that I don't know how to take criticism. That person said to me that I move too fast. That person said to me that I wear my heart on my sleeve and I need to learn how to protect myself. That person said to me that I need to be aware of my situations and my surroundings, because these things may not be, like I said, they may not be able to set in right then and there, but at some point they may be relevant to you and who you are becoming or who you see yourself to be. So let's learn how to handle the truth, and let's learn how to let it come in and do what it's going to do in our lives. And the most important thing that I think is going to come out of that is this last point that I want to make, which is really about being able to heal from the trauma that we've experienced from our male and female relationships. I have heard so many times, especially in the female gay community, that they have chosen to be gay because they're tired of being mistreated by people of the opposite sex. So they start dating the same sex, only to realize that a lot of times it's the same mistreatment. Not because of the gender. That's happening because there is a misalignment with the personal set of boundaries and the personal healing from trauma that we've allowed ourselves to experience. The level of trauma that we are experiencing, especially between each other, has to do with a lot of sexual things. There are a lot of emotional things having to do with respect, things having to do with dignity. Like, for example, in our music, a lot of women feel preyed upon because of the way that our bodies are objectified and the way we get overly sexualized. And I'm not going to take that from men, because our men are overly sexualized right along with us. Yeah, we know that. We know that our men are in a place where they are, kind of suffering.